So for this lesson today, we are going to start discussing some different views and some different prints that are found during the construction process and building of a home or a building. So what we're going to discuss is our plan views and our elevation prints that we are going to use during the construction process. So with site plans, these plans are going to give you a lot of information. It's going to give you the information of where on the property that the building is actually going to be constructed. It's going to show you boundaries, the property lines of the property itself. Okay, these things will be noted on the prints using line symbols representing different areas of measurement. The symbols on these types of prints will also have a compass that's going to show you the orientation of the building, which side of the building is actually facing north. Okay, because that's actually a very important component when it comes to HVAC design and load calculations, because you do want to know the orientation of a building, because you want to know at what point of the day is a building going to be receiving the most sunlight, and then during the winter months what side of the building is actually going to be like the coldest or receiving like the cold air or the wind. Okay, it's also going to give you a orientation of how the building is going to be actually positioned on the actual site. So here's an example of a site plan. Here we have actually a home. Here you can see on the outer lines of it is actually giving us our property lines. Okay, so in this case, say this property is going back 200 feet. Then we have 166 feet 4 inches along the back side, and along the side, according to this, it's 204 feet 9 inches. And then along the front, we have 200 feet. Okay, it will give you maybe the street name of where this building is actually going to be orientated. As you can see, it kind of gives you a lot of information, a basic idea of where the home is actually going to be orientated. And here is our compass. Okay, this way, in this case, facing in this direction, this is actually north. Okay, so if we were to draw a straight line all the way down, this back corner of the home is technically the north end of the house. So obviously if we were to keep going down, okay, it looks like maybe by the front door or this vicinity over here, this is actually the south side of the house. So when it comes to building design and heat and cooling load calculations, that is actually a very important tool to know. Okay, what foundation plans, obviously that's the foundation of the building. Okay, that's going to show you your walls, your structural work to be done below the living space. Obviously we're talking about basements. Okay, we're talking about maybe slabs, houses that are on a slab. Anything that is below the house is going to be on your foundation plans. Okay, these plans are going to show you the footing. It's going to show you the supports that's going to be needed. If it's on a concrete base, it's going to show you your concrete slab placement. Okay, concrete slabs are directly on a soil with little or no support whatsoever. And you may look at something of this nature. Okay, the foundation plan is going to give you the details on what is going to be involved in the actual concrete work and the making of the foundation. So as you can see here, our actual concrete footing is actually going to have steel reinforcements in it. Okay, rebar is going to be inserted into the concrete as it's being poured, or it's actually before it's poured. And then it tells us our foundation walls. Okay, on these types of plans, you will also see possibly the thickness of these walls. It's going to give you your dimensions of your thickness, how high the wall has to be, so on and so forth. Okay, for concrete slabs, this is basically what it would look like. Now, notice the different symbols. Okay, so here we are. This is dirt, and here's obviously this is gravel. Okay, so before they were to pour the concrete slab, they would have to put in an X amount of inches of gravel down first before they start to pour the concrete slab. And again, you know, we have steel reinforcements, rebar going through this, and again, it will tell you the thickness of that concrete slab, how many inches of concrete is going to have to be poured to support the home. Your other foundation plans would actually give you your girders and your support columns if you're dealing with a basement, because obviously you got to have some sort of support in a house. So you're going to have information on where these girders and support columns are going to be installed. More detailed foundation plans will actually give you a measurement from a wall to the column to tell you how many feet away this support column would actually need to be installed and poured. It also gives you the dimensions of the girder, how long and how wide it needs to be, and the type of wood that would need to be used to support the house. And here is a basic idea of what a foundation plan would look like. I mean, you can see on there is a bunch of measurements. There's a bunch of information on here. It tells you what's excavated and what's unexcavated. It tells you, and right here, this is actually 4 feet, if I'm not mistaken. I can't really quite read it, but it looks like this is about maybe 4 inches or maybe 4 feet of concrete slab has to be with 4 inches of gravel fill. Okay, that's going to be poured in this area. So it gives you a lot of information on the basic foundation structure of the home. Your floor plans, on the other hand, these are a little bit different, obviously. These talk more about your building height. They're going to show you a lot of the placement of where your walls are going to be, your doors, your windows, and a lot of the other important interior features that's going to be associated with the home. As a building has more floors, obviously each floor is going to have its own floor plan, because, you know, as you can tell, I mean, you've been to many homes and businesses, some floors look different than the other. So you're going to have different floor plans for different areas of that building. Okay, and these also provides more information than any other drawing. Your floor plans, again, they're going to show the location of all your walls, your doors, your windows, how the building is going to be divided into the rooms, and how to get from one room to another. Obviously, we're going to show you where the door placement is. Okay, familiarize yourself with the layout by imagining yourself walking through the house. So when you're on a job site, you're going to use the floor plan a lot. Okay, that gives you a lot of orientation of where your line sets may have to be ran. It's going to show you where your duct work is going to have to go. In fact, some cases even where an air handler is going to be placed. You can use the floor plan to give you an idea of where a lot of these things are going to actually be placed. Dimensions on your plans, these guys are going to give you the size and location of all of your walls. It's going to give you the size of your partitions, the size of the doors, your windows, and a lot of other important features. On the framing construction, all of your exterior walls are dimensioned to outside face of the wall frames, and if the walls are to be covered, the material is outside the dimensioned face of your wall frame. Okay, interior partitions may be dimensioned to center lines or face of studs, depending on the actual construction of the building. Windows and doors may be dimensioned about the center lines or edges of openings. Your solid masonry construction is dimensioned entirely to face of your masonry. masonry openings and doors and windows are dimensioned to the edge of openings. So as you can see here, here's an example of what we're talking about. This is where we get all of our dimensions. So between the outside wall and pretty much the center between our two windows, we're going to be measuring 6 feet 6 inches. And then from the center of the door to the center of these two windows is going to measure 8 feet 6 inches. However, the overall length of this particular wall from basically edge to edge is going to be 17 feet. Okay, so but you could see from the interior side, okay, from the exterior wall to the interior or center of that wall, we're going to be measuring 17 feet 1 3/4 inches. So these are a lot of very important measurements to use and to orientate yourself within a construction site and figuring out where certain components need to be put. Here's a dimension of your foundation. Okay, in this case we have actually windows in this case. Say we have a window here that's actually going to measure 2 feet 8 inches. This one here is 3 feet 4 inches, 3 feet 4 inches. Yet we have a span of wall space that measures 4 feet 4 inches. So a lot of these measurements come into play to give you an idea of where things go. Okay, floor plans include as much information as possible without making it obviously cluttered and hard to read. And again, like I said before, every floor of a building or a home is going to have its own separate floor plan. And then depending on how rooms are, even that particular room will have its own floor plan depending on what's actually happening. So doors and windows are always shown by their symbols. Your cabinets are shown in proper positions, okay, which is obviously going to be explained a little bit further by your elevations and your detail plans. Your stairs are going to be shown and overhead construction is indicated. If the ceiling is framed with joists, their size, direction, and spacing is going to be shown. Architectural features such as any exposed beams, archways, or unusual roof lines may also be shown as phantom lines. Okay, basically there's just another line in there that kind of shows you that they're there, but technically when the building is constructed, you're not really going to see them. So as far as elevations are concerned, we are going to discuss a little bit about the orientation of building elevations to a building plan, and we're also going to explore a little bit of information that's going to be found on your elevations. Okay, elevations are drawings that show your object height. Okay, when builders and architects refer to building elevations, they are actually talking about the exterior elevation of the building. How high is the building? All working drawing sets include elevations of the building on all 4 sides. A complex building, if it has more outside walls instead of like a standard house, it's going to have obviously more elevation plans than just their standard 4. Okay, a simple building, it may have less than what we're talking about. Here's an example of an elevation plan. Okay, obviously here we have our front elevation, a side elevation, and a rear elevation. Okay, it gives you the height of your walls to to the eaves of the roof, and it also gives you the height of the roofs on how high it goes. Okay, you're orientating when you're talking about elevations. This is going to help you to determine the relationship of one drawing to another. So in a way, you're kind of taking a lot of these drawings and putting them together. You're taking the floor plan and you're kind of visualizing yourself inside that space, and then you're using the elevation plan to kind of orientate yourself on the outside to kind of put the pieces together. Your elevations are named according to their compass direction. For like example, a side that faces north is obviously our north elevation. If it's the south side, it's going to be the south elevation. East, west, northeast, southwest, you name it. Okay, this allows us to orientate ourselves with other plans that we are going to be using. Okay, so this is what we're talking about. So we have our east elevation, we have our north, west, and south. Okay, so this is what we're technically seeing. So if we were to draw a compass on the ground and figure out which way was north, which way was south, east, and west, we can now simply orientate ourselves on which side of the building we're discussing. This is also a very important part of HVAC design. This is where you can also use to find where you're going to locate and install condensers, where you're going to maybe possibly run line sets, stuff like that is where you're going to kind of use some of these drawings. This is another more in-depth look. In fact, actually, this is a complete floor plan. As it tells you, all of the rooms are labeled. It gives you the location of your bathtubs, your toilets, your sinks. It gives you your closets, all aspects of the actual interior construction of the home is shown on your floor plans here. So what you need to see with this is you got to come up and you need to figure out however big a room is using a floor plan, because you can use that to calculate your CFMs for a room, to see how many CFMs of air needs to be brought into a particular room based off of the square feet. You can also use that to orientate yourself, again, north, south, east, and west, of where certain objects and components are going to be located, such as maybe supply air diffusers, maybe your return air grills. You can use a floor plan like this to kind of figure out where things go. Okay, sometimes compasses, directions cannot be used when they're dealing with a lot of these. When drawings are for use on several sites, elevations are then named according to their position when facing the actual building. Okay, so for example, we may not necessarily use north, south, east, west. You may just use front, south, front, back, right, left, to kind of orientate yourself, especially if you have a bunch of buildings that are going to kind of look the same. They may not necessarily always face in the same direction, so they kind of run into use front, rear, left, right, front, back, whatever. Building elevations do not include a lot of detail. They do show finished appearance of the building better than any of the other views. They show most of the building as it will actually appear when it's completed, using a lot of solid lines. Underground portions is shown using hidden lines. Okay, for example here, this is actually our building that's actually above ground, so everything is technically in a solid form. It gives us our siding, tells us our window size. It also gives us the pitch of the roof. Okay, it tells you the type of shingles. Obviously, it's not really that detailed, but it kind of gives you an idea of what the building would look like. And here are your hidden lines. Your hidden lines, this is obviously the basement. Okay, here's the footing of the home. Here is your basement walls. So it's giving you an idea of where everything is. Footings is shown as a rectangle of dashed lines at the bottom of your foundation walls. Ground surface is shown by a heavy solid line, also known as a grade line. It may include notes to indicate elevation above sea level or your reference point. Okay, so this is like another example. Say this is a house that's on a nice little ledge, a nice little beach house. This is going to give you an idea of how high above sea level this home will actually be sitting. Now in this case, it's sitting 150 feet above sea level. Other dimensions that will be found on your elevations, they're going to show you your thickness of your footing. It's going to show you your height of your foundation walls. It's going to show you the top of the foundation to finished first floor, finished floor to ceiling, or the top of the plate, or whatever, the top of the ceiling, your finished floor to bottom of windows, headers, and it's also going to give you your roof overhangs at the eaves. How many feet over the roof line does it actually extend? So in here you can see like our eaves of the house. This guy here Looks like we're going to be roughly from the top of the window, from the top of the window to the floor, we're about 6 feet 8 inches. Your top plate right here, from the top of the roof to the bottom of your top plate of the roof, you're measuring about 4 feet 6 inches. Okay, and again, here is your roof pitch. And again, as you can see, here is your bottom, your basement. It gives you, okay, this is 8 inches of footing from top to bottom, and we're measuring 3 feet 4 inches minimum for our foundation walls.